Alright then, they've done it. Tesla delivered the Cybertruck. They kinda started delivering Tesla semis as well, though not in huge volume. And the Roadster, we don't talk about that. But what Elon has been talking more about, especially in interviews with Sandy Munro, is the next generation vehicle platform. I've heard so much more about this product this year than I have the Roadster that was unveiled back in 2017. But I mean, that's understandable, right? Tesla's main mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, and the next generation vehicle is supposed to be more affordable. It's supposed to be their highest volume vehicle yet. Roadster isn't really that supportive of the mission. The Plaid Model S can satisfy the performance junkies, and if that's not fast enough for you, then the Rimac has you covered. There you go, super fast two-seater. But in his more recent interview talking about the next generation vehicle platform, Elon mentioned that the first assembly line for this next gen vehicle will actually be at Giga Texas, whereas earlier in the year they said they planned on starting in Giga Mexico, and I had expected that's because this is a lower price vehicle, probably smaller than a Model Y, probably smaller than a Model 3, and that would be catered towards different countries where Tesla has not been present previously, you know, like the Latin America countries and South America, where there's definitely a lot of cars being purchased every single year, but not a lot of Teslas. And that was not a completely baseless theory. Basically, Dave Lee was at Tesla Investor Day earlier this year, and Dave Lee said he talked to several unnamed Tesla executives that were telling him that Giga Mexico's intention was to service products and vehicles for other countries. It was not one of those factories that was meant for the United States. Basically, they said Tesla's not trying to pull a Ford where they just build things in Mexico for the cheap labor and then ship them back. It was meant for Mexico, as in to serve that market, and it was purely just close to the border because that was closer to the Tesla lithium refinery. But Elon's tune is changing the narrative a little bit with this next-gen vehicle, because Giga Mexico, it seems like they finally have some approval and they're getting some state funding to begin production on that factory soon, but essentially they haven't even really broken ground yet. It's very, very early, and Elon said that Mexico is taking too long, so Giga Texas is going to be first with this next-gen vehicle. And we could argue all day, and we have, honestly, speculated about what this next-gen vehicle should be. Some people, in my opinion, want the very boring answer, which is just make a compact, which is basically the same thing as slapping a Tesla logo on a Chevy Bolt. Just make a slightly shorter car with a hatchback and, I don't know, maybe some less premium materials on the inside. I take several issues with that design, particularly if it's going to be available in the United States. How do you make a cheaper vehicle that does not immediately kill off the sales of the Model 3 and Y, which are already experiencing some demand issues, but that mostly comes from there just being a ton of supply. We've got Fremont and Giga Texas roaring with Model Y production, but the Model 3 is losing its tax credit soon. So I don't think in the next couple years Tesla would be very happy to launch in the United States a Tesla with supercharging access and autopilot and FSD and all that that's cheaper than a Model 3, right? That would kind of eat into the sales. You have to make it worse in some ways. So my suggestion that I made a while ago and that I got really excited about when we saw Elon Musk's biography, there was a chapter about robotaxis where we saw this much more aerodynamic, radically redesigned look at a vehicle. Elon's talked about the next generation vehicle platform being similar to the Cybertruck, not in the idea that it's all steel and angular, but just that it doesn't look like anything else on the road. Like they're choosing a more bold decision, a more radical rethinking of what a vehicle can be. In interviews, when people ask Franz what his favorite vehicle design is, he goes, well, my favorite one is one we can't talk about yet. Do you think Elon and Franz would make those comments if they just had the intention of releasing, you know, a basic, boring looking, you know, smart car Tesla? No, I think they should do something drastically weird and different that maybe doesn't require paint and maybe doesn't have as many seats. That way it doesn't eat into the Model 3 market, but it just could be super affordable for the masses. Tesla probably already has the data showcasing that most vehicles on the road have less than 2 people in them. The average is like 1.5. So if you were to make a much cheaper Tesla, going with less seats, maybe not less wheels, because I know some people get finicky about auto cycles, but perhaps just making it a coupe, you know, a 2-door, could be a great way to differentiate it from the higher end vehicles. But also, while it may be cheaper and not as functional as a Model 3, it could unlock a lot of efficiency gains, like still getting close to 300 miles of range, but maybe with a 40 kilowatt hour battery pack, and that that way it would be much cheaper and cost effective to scale up, and therefore they could sell it for real cheap, hopefully find a way to still have it qualify for the federal tax credits and all that. Like I said, we can go back and forth all day and speculate on what this design is actually going to look like and function like, but I have one particular request after witnessing the birth and delivery of the Cybertruck, and I talked about this in recent videos, but the expectations were way out of line, where Tesla promised way lower prices and way higher range, and by the time production started for the Cybertruck, everybody's upset, everybody's let down, which in my opinion is sad, because Tesla created an incredible vehicle. Like, sure, the Cybertruck in its current form is not that affordable, and very few people can actually buy it, and the range is not as good as we thought, but still, if you just compare it to everything else on the market, the payload capacity, the towing capacity, the durability, the charging curve, the charging infrastructure, the software, the steer-by-wire technology, it's just an amazing vehicle, and yet the narrative surrounding it is, yeah, but it's not as good as the unveiling specs. So my hope here with the next generation vehicle platform, where there's so much hype, so many expectations surrounding this thing, and it's already kind of being ingrained in people's minds because everybody in the Tesla community keeps calling it the $25,000 Tesla. When does the $25,000 Tesla come? Are they going to unveil the $25,000 Tesla? People have just associated that price with the product, which I think is dangerous, because in more recent interviews they haven't used that terminology. They don't continually refer to it as $25,000. The last time basically they referred to it as a $25,000 vehicle was over 3 years ago at Tesla Battery Day, where they also unveiled the Plaid Plus Model S, which would go over 520 miles on a charge. Oh wait, that didn't actually happen. So again, Tesla has an expectation problem, and they're probably going to continue to have this issue with the over-promising and under-delivering. My suggestion to Tesla, because I'm sure they're watching all my videos, right, is that I think you guys are awesome, okay, with your incredible charging infrastructure, and you've proven with the Cybertruck that you can convince people to buy anything. You have so much brand power that to avoid the false expectations and to avoid getting people's hopes up, or to avoid disappointing people in the same way that the Cybertruck ended up being such a disappointment to a lot of the public. This sounds a little crazy, and a lot of you may not be up for it, but I think Tesla should actually start taking reservations for this next generation vehicle without even unveiling it, okay? Don't talk about the range, don't show the design, don't talk about how many seats or tires or anything. Just have a real quiet page, maybe has a slight silhouette of the side profile of this vehicle, kind of like what they had at the shareholder meeting. Just tease that there's going to be a next generation vehicle with lower pricing, but don't get more specific than that, okay? This could technically, for the Founders Series next generation vehicle, be barely cheaper than a Model 3, okay? Like just a couple of grand less, because obviously you don't want to run into an Osborne situation where, let's say, Tesla decides to do what they've always done and just have a big event like 2 to 3 years before deliveries begin, and they showcase, all right, here's the new next generation vehicle. It's $25,000 and it has amazing range and it's a great overall product. You should totally buy one, but we're not going to be able to make it for 3 years. Yeah, that would be a problem, because now no one's going to want to buy your Model 3s and your Model Ys, and they're all just going to be waiting around for the $25,000 Tesla. 3 years go by, turns out it's a $32,000 Tesla or a $40,000 Tesla, and over time they hope to bring the price down. So to keep demand under control, just like the Cybertruck is with the Founders Series being more expensive, you just start taking reservations, and there will be some hyperbulls, some crazy Tesla fans that are like, yep, literally, I will buy this thing sight unseen. And then of course, once you get the manufacturing line up and running, and sure, there will probably be some leaks here and there, you just try to keep it on the DL as much as possible. You announce the delivery date is like just a couple of days after the unveiling. I bet because Tesla has so much insane brand power, so many people want this vehicle, and so many people are gonna buy it even if they don't necessarily need it, just because they're excited that there's a new Tesla vehicle, a new product of some kind. So many people are buying the Cybertruck just because it's weird and new, not necessarily because they need it for work or anything. And you know, a lot of you could argue that Tesla has a cult-like following, and I agree with that, but I would advocate, even though I don't follow them that blindly, I don't believe everything they say they're going to do, they still kind of have earned it in many ways. They've delivered with some amazing products, and they've quickly skyrocketed to be the most valuable automotive brand in the world, and they have an amazing charging infrastructure which is second to none. And I understand why a lot of people are so obsessed with this brand over any other. Regardless, if you tell people that you're working on a next generation vehicle that's going to be steer by wire and 48 volt and use all Tesla in-house design controllers with this new manufacturing manufacturing process, the unboxed process. If you tell them all that and that this is going to be a low price vehicle, unlike the Cybertruck, which a lot of us kind of expected to be higher price, you're going to sell every single vehicle you make. And I don't even think you really need to unveil it. To kind of prevent the expectations from getting out of hand, I would say don't unveil any of the specs. Don't even unveil the design until your production line is pretty much good to go. I think we should have the quickest turnaround in Tesla's history between unveiling and deliveries. The record currently is held by the Model Y, which was a fairly simple vehicle to ramp up because it shared a lot of components with the Model 3, and they simplified a lot of the Model 3's most complicated pieces thanks to gigacastings. And they basically went from an unveiling in March 2019 to deliveries in March of 2020. So within a year, they unveiled it and delivered it ahead of schedule. And I want Tesla to fight that Elon time narrative and not get people's hopes up with unrealistic expectations. I'm gonna be very, very frustrated if we have to have a whole nother unveiling event where Elon walks up there unprepared looking at the PowerPoint slides for the first time and goes, yes, actually it's gonna cost $17,000 and the range is 400 miles. It's gonna be great. It's gonna change the world. And then it's supposed to come out in a year, and then it doesn't come out for 3 years, and then it ends up being $35,000 instead of 17, and the range is actually 260 instead of 400. It could still be a very impressive milestone to deliver on all of those things, but if the expectations are out of check, the narrative is all just everybody's bummed out and everybody's disappointed that it didn't live up to the hype. So control the hype, this one Tesla. You've already hyped it up enough with all the manufacturing processes, and to prevent Osborning your own products, you know, we want people to continue buying Model 3s and Ys. That's just healthy for the company. It's healthy for the factory. I say let's have the quickest turnaround between unveiling and deliveries. Literally, you could start taking reservations right now, and I bet probably several tens of thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands of people, just knowing that this is going to be one of the cheapest Teslas ever, and that it will be the next generation. It'll be cool. It'll have a redesign. It'll be radical. Yeah, a bunch of people on Twitter just going to reserve it right away. They don't even care. The same way they reserved the Cybertruck. Start taking reservations now, but then don't unveil the official design. Don't talk about the specs, the range, or the finalized pricing until just like a week before deliveries begin. And then sure, maybe the price is a bit higher than people wanted, but at least their expectations weren't completely out of check, and there's not too long of a hype period. But what do you think? Am I crazy for suggesting such a thing? Do all vehicles have to have a unveiling followed by a 2-year wait before deliveries? I'm hoping Tesla can speed it up on this one, or at least stay quiet until it is actually ready to start deliveries. But given Elon says they're reviewing the manufacturing line right now at Giga Texas, feels like it's not too far into the future, but you definitely don't want to unveil that product too soon because it could kill some of the primary income for the whole business. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think makes sense for the announcement schedule of this next gen vehicle? And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. It seriously helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.